All right, everybody, I am back. Good to be back. Do want to switch gears off of that awesome national championship game, and I want to do something that I do every single episode of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast the day after the national championship game, which is to start to look ahead to next year. And if you follow any of your, anybody in the media, everybody in the media the day after the championship game or the night of the championship game always puts out their way too early top 25 for the following season. I will go through the top 10, but before we get into it, let me give the caveat of just saying this. These rosters are going to change exponentially over these next couple months, okay? And so one, if your team is listed or not listed, don't be upset. If your team is listed at 1, 2, 5, 10, 7, it's not to say that things can't change, because I think I could argue that in college basketball more than any other sport, we just see crazy offseason turnover with these rosters. We have the NBA draft. We have guys that declare and leave. We have unexpected guys that declare and leave. Some guys just say, I'm done with college basketball. I don't want to go to school anymore. I'm ready to be a professional. We obviously have the transfer portal, which has made this stuff extra crazy over the last 2-3 years, because on the one hand, you're losing key players, but you're gaining players as well. Think about all the players that transferred at this time last year that when I put out a top 25, there was no way for me to know that this guy was going to be on this team. Remy Martin at Kansas, James Akinjo at Baylor, Walker Kessler at Auburn, Kellen Grady, Severe Wheeler, whoever at Kentucky. You go on and on down the list. Arkansas had several transfers that were key pieces to their Elite Eight run this year that simply weren't on the roster when I did my way too early top 25. So a lot is going to change. We're going to have high school players commit. We're going to have high school players reclassify. And then I think this year there is the extra caveat that NIL is going to be a factor for the first time ever. So you might have had a guy that years ago would have said, I don't care if I'm going to be a second-round pick. I don't care if I'm going to be undrafted. I'm going to just go pro and start making money. Well, now that kid can come back to campus and potentially make as much, if not more money in college than they can as a pro. Off the top of my head, a couple guys. Oscar Tshiebwe, National Player of the Year at Kentucky. I think that could be a factor for him. Johnny Juzang at UCLA could be a factor for him. Hunter Dickinson at Michigan could be a factor for him. So I could go on and on. But I want to get to the top 25, but I just want to give you the caveat. This is going to change a ton. If you listen to the podcast over these next few months, we'll update this top 25 throughout the offseason. But I think this is a good time to get into my way too early top 25 for 2022-2023. And what I would say is, again, always be checking Aaron Torres online because I will be updating it. And it's also worth noting, stuff is going to change over these next few days. I'm recording this on Tuesday morning. If you listen to it on Friday, there are probably going to be guys that have made decisions counter to what I'm saying. So don't be yelling and screaming, oh, Torres, this guy declared. Okay, I get it. We're recording on Tuesday. Let's get into the way too early top 25 for 2022. The number one team in my way too early top 25. I thought this would be sort of controversial, but it seems to be almost consensus. It is, drumroll please, it is the Arkansas Razorbacks. And so, I was hesitant to put Arkansas at number one because, everybody knows, oh, Torres, you love the Hogs, you love Musk, Big Pig Invasion, blah, 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 this and that. Okay, I get it. What I would also say is that if you look at this Arkansas team on paper, I think right now coming in, they are the best team in college basketball on paper heading into 2022-2023. I will say they would have been a definitive, no doubt about it, consensus number one if their star player J.D. Note had decided to return. Again, I thought because of NIL that he might. Instead, he announced that he's going pro. And it's also worth noting that Jalen Williams, really good role player, big guy for Arkansas, probably the second most important player on their team this year. He, on Monday, did declare for the draft, but is leaving his options open. I expect him back. I have him back, as well as two other big-time contributors from this year's Elite Eight team, Devo Davis, the guard, and then on top of that, Audi's Tony, a player who does have an extra year of eligibility. I don't know yet if he'll take it, though. So right now, Arkansas has three key contributors coming back off their Elite Eight team. But then on top of that, and this is the important part, they also have the number 2 recruiting class in the country, headlined by 3 McDonald's All-Americans. Anthony Black, we talked about last week, big point guard. He's about 6'6", 6'7", really developed late in his career, went from fringe top 100 to a top 10 player in this class. So excited to watch him play. Jordan Walsh, I heard Coach Musk just describe his toughness and the way that he plays. I think he said he's a violent defender. He loves to get up in you, which sounded weird, by the way, get up in you. But anyway, get up in you defensively is what I meant, people. Okay, get your head out of the gutter. And then Nick Smith Jr., big wing, talented wing. Some are saying he might be the best American high school prospect in this class of 2022, meaning he could be the first American-born player in the class of 2023. There's a big center out of, I believe, France, who's projected as the number 1 pick in not this coming NBA draft, but the next one. But Nick Smith could go as high as number 2. So you're talking about not only 3 McDonald's All-Americans, but 3 McDonald's All-Americans that can step in, play right away, and be absolute difference makers. I have Arkansas at number 1 in my way too early top 25. Number 2 is the Kansas Jayhawks. Caw-caw. Listen, Kansas is going to lose Ochai Agbaji, obviously, All-American. He's going to be a top, probably 15 pick. They lose Remy Martin, 5th-year senior, extra year of eligibility. And I do suspect they'll lose David McCormick, 4th-year junior. Really good NCAA tournament. I suspect that he will want to move on, but I'll also say this. I didn't realize he's an incredible student, and they said he graduated with undergrad in 3 years, working on his master's. And so I guess there's a thought that maybe he just loves school and he might come back for a 5th year. I wouldn't bank on it, but I think it's at least possible. As of right now, though, I do have Kansas bringing back Christian Brown, double-figure scorer on Monday night. Jalen Wilson, double-figure scorer on Monday night. DeJuan Harris, starting point guard. Couple backups that played well. Joseph Yesufu, I think, will step in and have a bigger role next year. And all of that is subject to change. I'm already seeing buzz that Christian Brown could be a first-round pick this year. I don't know that I see it. I think he could take the Ochai Agbaji route, return to college for another year, be an All-American, play yourself into the top 15. But there's obviously the possibility that he could declare. Jalen Wilson, I believe he's been on campus for 3 years now. He may declare. So you just never know. But right now I like this core that's returning for Kansas. I also like the fact they have 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming in next season. MJ Rice, really talented guard. And a couple big guys as well. Grady Dick, a wing, is a player that a lot of people were buzzing about coming out of the McDonald's All-American game. I do have Kansas at number 2 in my way too early top 25. Number 3 is maybe the most interesting team on this list, and that's the UCLA Bruins. So if you remember this time last year, UCLA made the 2021 Final Four and literally brought back everybody. What's crazy is, in theory, they could bring back everybody again because of the COVID rules and the COVID year of waiver, or the extra year of waiver with COVID. I don't think that they will, but right now, here is the UCLA roster situation, okay? They have 3 seniors that have an extra year of eligibility. Cody Riley, David Singleton, Jules Bernard. The buzz is all 3 will probably move on. David Singleton is the likely one that would come back, maybe work on his master's, play another year of college basketball. But right now, it's really hard to project any of those 3 coming back. But all 3 can if they want to, and we'll see if any of them do. On top of that, UCLA has 3 players, and we should get some clarification on these guys soon, that have NBA possibilities of leaving. Johnny Juzang, Jaime Jaquez, and Peyton Watson. Okay, for people who don't know the UCLA roster, I think everybody knows Johnny Juzang, star of the 2021 Final Four run. He declared last year he decides to come back. The season doesn't really go as he expects, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's back next year. Jaquez is a projected second-round pick. I kind of think he's probably going to at least test, maybe declare. And Peyton Watson is a really interesting one. Projected one and done, really talented athlete, has a long way to go as a player. I've heard that he wants to declare. I don't know that he will. I think it's also possible. This is just total speculation on my part. I'm not reporting anything. I haven't heard anything. But I think he could be a portal candidate if he decides to come back to college, maybe go somewhere where there's a more clear path to a starting role, to big minutes, to big production. But that's the situation with UCLA. 3 guys who could use an extra year but might not, 3 guys who could declare. In terms of the team, I do have their starting point guard, Tiger Campbell, returning for a 4th year. I do have a kid named Jalen Clark, who I think is going to be a star for this team. He's just a Mick Cronin, tough, grimy, gritty kid. And then I do have Johnny Juzang coming back because I don't know if he's going to get drafted this year. And I do wonder, he's got a huge social media following. I do wonder if he can make some pretty decent money being a college star at UCLA. But the other thing with UCLA, too, they got a really good recruiting class coming in. They have, obviously, the big name there is Amari Bailey. You probably know about Amari Bailey because, well, I hate to say it, but his mom dated Drake there for a while. I don't know if they're still together. I don't know if those 2 crazy lovebirds are still in love or what. But Amari Bailey, McDonald's All-American, Adem Bona, McDonald's All-American. And so it's going to be interesting to try and figure out how the puzzle pieces fit. I do think one of their big guys, Miles Johnson, comes back for another year. UCLA at number 3, but I would argue out of everyone here, they have the biggest fluctuation of what their roster could look like versus what I have it now. Number 4, and this is going to be controversial, I got Gonzaga, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to sit there and say, Torres, here we go again, another top 5 ranking. They're going to be overrated. I can't fight you on that. I cannot fight you on that. But with Gonzaga, what I would say is pretty straightforward. They are probably the best example of what I said about the idea of how NIL could keep a star college player on campus. So Drew Timme, my understanding is he's making real money up there in Spokane. And by the way, they're legitimate NIL deals. It's not like these high school football players that are getting $8 million for quote unquote NIL. Drew Timme, I believe, is like the spokesperson for the casino in Spokane. He's got his own line of merchandise. My understanding is he's making real money playing college basketball and that he could possibly make more money playing at Gonzaga next year than he would going pro. So I have Drew Timme coming back. Now, there are some questions in the backcourt, but Julian Strother is a player that at times looked like an NBA-type wing. I'm curious to see how he develops. Hunter Salas, Nolan Hickman, both freshmen this year. They are going to get better going into next season. And oh, by the way, Gonzaga is going to crush in the portal because Gonzaga always crushes in the portal. Who wouldn't want to go play at Gonzaga? Who wouldn't want to go play in that system? So I do have Gonzaga at number 4 in my way too early top 25. Number 5, it's kind of the same deal. Right now, I have Arizona at number 5. So who is coming back for Arizona? First of all, who is leaving? Their star, Ben Mathurin. He was the guy that took over against TCU. He's gone. I would assume Christian Koloko, the big center, he will probably be gone. And then everybody else, it's kind of a touch-and-go deal. The biggest question mark they'll have in terms of the draft, Dalen Terry, who was basically my favorite player to watch in college basketball this year. Just a really confident, some might say borderline cocky kid. Really came on late in the season. Really loved the way that he played for Arizona. When Kirk Kriisa went down with an injury, he stepped up, averaged 8 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists per game. I think he can come back and be a first-team All-American. I also think as a big 6'6", 6'7" guard, he could potentially be drafted in the first round, maybe late first round, early second round. I don't know if he comes back. To me, he is the linchpin for a top 5 team. Kirk Kriisa, the starting point guard, is coming back. Pelle Larsson, big wing, is coming back. Umar Ballo, the Gonzaga transfer. I actually thought he played better than I could have ever imagined. He will probably step in for Christian Koloko, and Azuolas Tubelis will come back as well. So right now, I like that core. Dalen Terry, to me, is the X factor. If he comes back, I think, 1, he can be a first-team All-American, but 2, as importantly, I also believe that when I look at this Arizona team, he's kind of the piece that puts them over the top. If not, they're probably a fringe top 10, top 12, top 15 team. But I have Arizona at number 5. Number 6 is where it starts to get interesting. I have the Houston Cougars. I mean, listen, first of all, love them Cougars. I love them Cougars. But Kelvin Sampson's, he's a monster, man. I mean, listen, this guy is unbelievable. Sweet 16 in 2019, loses at the buzzer to Tyler Hero in Kentucky. 2021 makes the Final Four. Obviously, there was no 2020 NCAA tournament. This year loses his top 2 players and makes the Elite 8. Well, guess what? Those top 2 players are back. Marcus Sasser, Tremont Mark. Jamal Shedd had an awesome NCAA tournament. Ramon Walker came on strong. Juwan Roberts came on strong. They are expected to lose a few guys, but the one thing that I think they do well, they're going to hit the portal and find guys that fit what they do. And the guys that they are going to bring in are not the guys that are going to show up on the best portal guys list, right? They're probably going to bring in big guys and wings and tough guys down low that just want to play defense and play a role. But I will say, I look at this team, and it's hard not to like them coming into next season. I do have Houston at number 6. Number 7, maybe the most interesting team in the way too early top 25. It's the Duke Blue Devils, right? Because on the one hand, they have the number 1 ranked recruiting class, which includes 3 of the top 10 players and 4 of the top 10 players, top 15 players overall. Derek Lively, center, superstar, super dynamic, super athletic. Kyle Filipowski, stretch 4, really talented player. Derek Whitehead, really talented wing. Mark Mitchell rounds out that 4 top 15 recruits coming in for 2022-2023. Here's the issue. They might literally bring back nobody who played significant minutes. Jeremy Roach is the only guy that I really have coming back that played major minutes. And they got a first-time head coach. We know nothing about John Shire. And so it's really hard to speculate. I think on paper, much like Duke this year, they might be the most talented team in college basketball. The difference is they won't have a head coach with 40-plus years experience of coaching at the highest levels of the sport. And so to me, when I look at this Duke team, I want to put them higher. I think they probably deserve to be ranked higher. But how do you put a first-time head coach any higher in this top 25? I mean, we're talking about Hall of Famers at the top of this list. We're talking about Bill Self. We're talking about, Mark Few. We're talking about Kelvin Sampson, who's maybe the best coach in college basketball. So I have Duke at number 7. If you want to put them at 1 or 2, I can't argue. You want to put them a little bit lower, I can't argue. Duke at number 7. Number 8, the Creighton Blue Jays. They're another one that I thought I might be a little bit higher on than most. Oh, no. I saw them as high as 3-4 in some of these preseason polls. Creighton was a great story. Late in the year, they just are dealing with one injury after the other. First of all, their starting point guard, Sharif Mitchell, gets hurt to start the season. Ryan Nemhard, a freshman who was supposed to be the backup, comes in. He plays really well. Then he gets hurt a week before the Big East tournament. Guess what? They go on a run without him, go to the Big East tournament championship game where they ultimately lose to Villanova. Get to the NCAA tournament. Fall down to San Diego State, rally to beat San Diego State. Then their starting center, Ryan Kalkbrenner, goes down, and they still almost beat Kansas, the eventual national champ, in round 2. Well, Ryan Kalkbrenner, their starting center, is going to be back. Ryan Nemhard, the starting point guard, is going to be back. And there was a kid named Arthur Kaluma that came on really late. He looks to me like an NBA player, maybe a year or two away. Another kid, Trey Alexander, as well. They do lose some veterans from this team, but I really like this Creighton team, which picked up some valuable experience and showed some crazy toughness. Creighton's another one. They're going to find the right pieces in the portal. They did a good job this past year. They will do the same next year. Number 9. This is an interesting one. It's the Tennessee Volunteers. And the Tennessee thing is so crazy because I was looking at the rosters and I know what is going to happen. We are going to talk about them, maybe overhype them, maybe they're really good, and then we're going to get into the tournament and it's going to be the same cycle of can Rick Barnes win in the tournament. And I get it. And I get the frustration of Tennessee fans. And I get the frustration of non-Tennessee fans like, Torres, don't put them this high. They're not going to have tournament success. But you look at them, most of the core of this year's team, which was one of probably the top 5-6 teams going into the tournament, most of that core is back. John Fulkerson finally leaves. Kennedy Chandler is probably going to go pro at one point, but he's another one. With NIL, I think it's at least possible that he comes back, as minimal as it is. Santiago Vescovi declared for the draft, but he's not getting drafted, so unless he wants to go overseas and start to make some money, he'll be back. And again, with this Tennessee collective, you mean to tell me they can't put up some cash so he can live pretty well? Josiah Jordan-James, Sakai Ziegler, Uros Plavic, and of course Olivier Kangwa, who was out with injury. They're all back. Brandon Hatley-Hunfield is back. Most of the core of the team that we all loved late in the year is back. Now, what happens with Kennedy Chandler? I don't know. But if we're just looking at rosters, it's hard to put very many teams before Tennessee. And as a matter of fact, I thought I should put them higher, but I put them at number 9 because I thought it was probably for the best that I not put them too high, get Tennessee fans' hopes up too high. Tennessee at number 9. Finally, at number 10, you talk about a roster that is going to be fascinating to watch here over the next couple days, or next couple weeks, next couple months. It's the Kentucky Wildcats. And Kentucky has Arguably two of the most important stay-go decisions. And again, this is being recorded on Tuesday. We could get clarification on either of these any day now. But to me, this is so fascinating. So Keon Brooks, by the way, did declare on Monday while maintaining his eligibility. But we assume Kellen Grady, Davion Mintz, Ty Washington are gone. Here is who could stay and here is who could go. Oscar Tshiebwe, National Player of the Year. Now, he, of course, is an international student. He's here on a visa, and I'm still a little confused as to how much NIL money that he can really make. First, there was a report that he was open for business. Now I'm hearing mixed things that he might not be able to make as much money as we thought. But if Oscar Tshiebwe comes back, the National Player of the Year, one of the greatest rebounders in the history of college basketball, could be back for another season. On the flip side, though, there's Shaedon Sharpe, who was projected as he was the number one pick in the class of 2022, enrolled early, and we now find out that he's eligible for the NBA draft. And I'll be real, I see it hard to see the scenario that he comes back in 2022, 2023. And so if he doesn't come back, who's the point guard? If he doesn't come back, what does it mean for Oscar Tshiebwe? If he doesn't come back, what about Sahvir Wheeler? So I like this Kentucky roster, but as we saw late, I don't know if you can win a national championship if Sahvir Wheeler's your point guard. Does he stay? What does his future look like? The freshmen are going to be really good, Chris Livingston and Cason Wallace, but are they ready without Shaedon Sharpe, who is supposed to be the playmaker, ball handler, difference maker? So the thing with Kentucky, obviously we got to watch for Oscar Tshiebwe. I do have Oscar Tshiebwe coming back in this top 25, but at the same time, they need some guards around him. They need a lead guard. If it's going to be Sahvir Wheeler, you need three-point shooting around him. We'll be curious what Kentucky does in the portal in the coming weeks because of the fact that this is just a fascinating team. So I don't want to go through every team in the rest of the top 25, but let's just go through a few of them. Number 11, Michigan State. I actually really like their guards. I think their guards are very interesting going into next year. Thought Tyson Walker and A.J. Hoggard had played well down the stretch. Max Christie, I think I'm getting some big Ben Mathurin vibes from him. Come back, maybe a late second-round pick this year. Come back, be a superstar next year. I like Michigan State at number 11. Number 12, Baylor. I don't think there's really much to say there. They return a lot. They're going to need to find a point guard. Keontae George is a 5-star. He will probably be that point guard, but do you bring in a backup to him? It's going to be a lot to put the pressure on him. Number 13 is the North Carolina Tar Heels, and I don't know what to do with North Carolina. I really don't. Because when I look at North Carolina, I sit there and say, man, oh man, oh man, I can't see Caleb Love or Armando Bacot coming back. If either one does, again, NIL, I'm going to move them up. But right now I have both those guys leaving. Brady Manick is out. Leaky Black graduates. So really you start to look at who's going to be back. It's RJ Davis. It's Puff Johnson, the kid who stepped up in the NCAA in the Final Four, and then he got sick on the sidelines. No great recruits to speak of, although there is talk. Gigi Jackson, a 5-star in the class of 2023. Not only could he commit to UNC, but also that he may very well reclassify to 2022. So that's one to keep an eye on. Going through number 14, Auburn. Auburn's going to be an interesting one, right? Lose Jabari Smith, lose Walker Kessler. They did sign a 5-star Johan Traore, who is committed to LSU. Could be in line to get another one. It's really going to come down to the guards. Are the guards good enough? All that good stuff. So we will see on, Auburn from there. Beyond Auburn at 14, Villanova, 15, same deal. Doesn't look like on paper that they are a super talented team. They lose a lot. But are you betting against Villanova? I'm not. Villanova at number 15. Number 16, and by the way, all of this is at AaronTorresOnline.com. If you want to read it, AaronTorresOnline.com. I'll keep it pinned atop my Twitter page as well. Number 16, my UConn Huskies. Look, I'll be quick here, but they don't have a point guard. That's the problem. But Andre Jackson, Adama Sanogo, two really key players off last year's team, are back. Jordan Hawkins, I believe, is a breakout star waiting to happen. But they don't have the lead guard with no R.J. Cole, no Tyrese Martin. So who is the point guard? They're going to have to find somebody in the transfer portal. UConn at 16. This is a big one. Number 17, I have Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a team that returns literally basically everybody off of that NIT runner-up team, but a team that not only had success in the NIT, let's not forget, final week of the regular season, they beat Bama. Final SEC tournament, they beat Florida. They beat Arkansas. They beat Auburn on the way to an SEC championship game. I got Tennessee with all those guys, or Texas A&M with all those guys back at 17. San Diego State at 18. They return a bunch. They're going to be really good. 19. I just mentioned the fact that Texas A&M was the NIT runner-up. You know who won the NIT? Xavier. You know what they got now? A real coach. And so I look at this Xavier team with Sean Miller returning a ton from that team from last year. I got Xavier at number 19. I really do think they are a team that can have a bunch of success. I have Xavier at 19. Let's rip through the Final Five. Colorado State at number 20. They went 25-6 this year. Their top 4 scorers are back. 21 Marquette. Justin Lewis is the star there. If he returns to school, they could be even higher than 21. 22 is Michigan. I don't have either Hunter Dickinson or Caleb Houston coming back. If they do come back, though, I have Michigan moving way up. 23 Dayton. Dayton was one of the first 4 out. They returned literally everybody. 24, an interesting one. I have Bama at 24, but I am hearing increasing rumors that Javon Quinterly, their starting point guard, could be back for a 5th year. He's the guy that got hurt in the NCAA tournament. If he's back and playing anything close to 100%, I'm going to have to bump them up. Alabama at 24, Texas Tech at 25. Loved Mark Adams. Really believe in what he's doing there. Again, you can see this all at AaronTorresOnline.com. I should mention, by the way, next 5, 26 Davidson, 27 Indiana, 28 Ohio State, 29 Florida State, 30 Texas. But to recap, the top 10 is Arkansas, Kansas, UCLA, Gonzaga, Arizona, Houston, Duke, Creighton, Tennessee.